Really? Like
We're on,
with
love.
me?
We're on.
You mean like really? You think that I keep secrets? How many secrets have I ever kept in my life?
You munching on grapes? Is that your lunch or a snack?
Yes.
Yay.
Better?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all I had to do. Shut that laptop off. Must have been cross-contamination.
Well, I'm not showing my face today, so this is very unexpected. I didn't know I was recording this till a few seconds ago, but I'm not showing my face because I'm not. That's the answer. I've had a shower. I'm chilled out. I've got no makeup on. You're eating grapes. I'm drinking grapes.
Oh, you got some grape juice, do you?
I am full of vitamin C.
No, you go ahead. Yeah, it's inspiration from the video you did with your friend Haley,
Yeah.
who happens to be my daughter's name as well.
Oh, lovely.
And I watched that this morning, and I missed out on that. Hey?
Lovely.
Lovely
That
that
your
my daughter's name is
name?
Haley.
Yeah, your daughter's name's the same, yeah.
I know. I named her after. I didn't know that Haley's Comet was coming around that year. Or I think it might have been the year before. 87 she was born. But my first wife wasn't overly impressed with being pregnant, and she didn't really get into the name thing. And we were watching a football game. In Canada, football is where they throw the ball, not kick it.
Okay.
You know, football makes more sense that they kick it, but anyway, we got this game over here. And one of the fellows had a jersey on the back of it. It said Haley, and it was spelt that way, Hailey. I said, that's a nice name. She says, sure, whatever.
Oh my God.
It was nicer than that.
It was just that moment, was it?
Yeah. But she, when she came out then, out of that terrible, horrible, painful situation, basically just get that thing away from me. So I took it, Haley, that is, and I was feeding it some water, or her some water. And she starts making these noises, so I gave her a second name too, Melody.
Oh, wow.
And she always was a singer. I could never get her to. I probably shouldn't be eating grapes on a live Zoom, right?
Yeah, do it. I'm drinking wine. You're eating grapes. You've said press that record button, so I've done it.
Lovely. Yeah. So anyway, the topic was more along the lines of the woman, and when I think of that, I think of what your topic was in your conversation, which was the womb.
Yeah.
WOMB, and then AN at the end, and it's like, has the woman been banned from this patriarchal society? Has the feminine been suppressed? By all means, Danusha, and coming from a guy who's obviously had both these front teeth knocked out and quite a few scars on these, it's hard for me to, not hard, it's easy for me, but hard for people to accept that this man could have some kind of feminine balance in him, but I do, and I worked hard to get it because it's all inner work. The male is that exposing himself like naturally as well, look how the pheasants do it, or the peacocks, or whatever, or monkeys, or any other species, just like, look at me I'm gonna expose myself, I'm gonna tell everything. I'm gonna tell the whole story. And the woman sits back. Seen this before. Get lost. You weirdo.
This is a beauty, because we have, even though there's a separation and a divide with the terminology of sexes, separation, male and female, that we are both, and we never knew we were both. And it's to recognize that we have all the elements, but sometimes we get used to from whatever the upbringing was, the conditioning was, that you stay in that element of being the female and maybe suppressed down, not being the protector, the warrior, strong and confident, and being able to provide in a way, and the man being sensitive and sweet and intuitive and in his knowing. So it's simple, it's not separate. And then when we recognize these things in ourselves, they're not separate and they're not male or female, they're just you're all of it. So it is beautiful to see men recognizing that in themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, is it the difference because I'm an Earth boy, you know that. Like, I don't talk about aliens or any of that stuff. I mean, everybody's welcome to their stories. Don't get me wrong. I'm not running anybody down, and I really love being in that non-judgmental position. It really gives me comfort. But you know, I always relate back to the animals because, like, for 30 years of my life, I had a career in the cattle business, as you know, and I raised the animals with love and kindness, and you know, went through the process of you know, creating food products out of them, but in as conscious a manner as I possibly can. And that's still my role and my goal in life, is to do that more. But you know, do they know the oneness, Danusha? Like, or is that the separation between the human and the other mammals and animals on Earth? Like, are we the ones that can recognize that oneness, that spirit within that is the one, the all?
Well, I can give my version, but I just want to ask, because like you said, you were around these animals or these beings all the time. So you tell me, how did you connect with them? How did you see them in a different way? How did you separate, whether you had to let go of them, or I don't know if you sold them or you had to kill them for food. I don't know what your business was. So what was your connection to that? How did you see them?
Oh God. At first, you know, it was really difficult because I knew that I was in the business to raise food, right? And quickly I got into the business of raising breeding stock. So, you know, bulls for mating, females, and females to produce offspring. And that's how I kind of avoided it.
Mm-hmm.
But I could never avoid it because I always knew that in the end there was a purpose here, right? So the sentient being side has always been a challenge for me. And I mean, you know, being that labeled, and I'm going to say labeled as a light worker because of my, you know, position in the physical 3D world of banking and business. It's been a really challenge because there's a lot of those people that are vegan, you know, or vegetarian. So I went through that, and then you got to get to the next stage of understanding what death is.
Yes.
And I died a couple times already. I died once, blood dried out on thank God I was in a hospital, otherwise I wouldn't be here talking to you. But you know, that understanding of what death is what got me to the stage of, okay, listen, I'm not here forever either. And what am I going to do with this, you know, meat suit, earth suit, whatever you call it, when I'm done with it? I sure the hell ain't going to burn the damn thing.
Yeah.
You know, I want to, if I put it in a box, I want the box to have holes in it so that life can regenerate itself from what's left of me, you know? And there's all kinds of things and discussion in that area, but the key, I think, is where we're looking for maybe today is there a conscious difference between the human being and the mammal? And honestly, like, to answer your question first, and then you have to answer mine.
I will.
Is that, you know, I think that we are unique, that animals, like, you know, I've witnessed the bulls mating the cows, or to try to mate them, you know, like that whole chase them off, get lost, I don't want anything to do with you. and in many species, and the whole flowery look at me like I was doing earlier, all of that stuff I witnessed in the animals. And I, I saw compassion in the males, but not a lot. Like if the youngsters would get out of line, they'd hammer them. Like they didn't. It wasn't, and the females would too to a certain extent, but the males, they didn't seem to have that compassion, that nurturing that the females had. So I don't know. I think we are different that way. That we have the inner capacity to recognize our oneness, our one soul, our connection to the great mystery, the God source that says that we're one, that we are male and female combined. And
well, we're all of it. We're animals. We're everything. We can imagine ourselves as animals and be those animals. Find that empowerment. Find that, see the fear and the meekness.
yes,
We can be all that. So my connection with animals is I see them more in presence rather than present time. It doesn't mean they don't have memories instilled from the past if they've been hurt or harmed or in shock or trauma. But I've never been able to see them. It's like they've got a knowing of the future, but they don't. It's not like our brains where we worry about the future. They just be. They're always in the present.
Yeah. I mean, the more they're domesticated, the more you can see, like a dog, for instance, will cower, right? Because he's seen that hand come down and stuff like that. Yeah. But that's instinct as much as it is understanding the oneness, I think,
Yes.
But the wild animals, or animals that are, far less domesticated than dogs. And let's not go into cats, because I fucking love cats. They're just so, like, you think you're gonna fucking get away with that? Like, I love cats. They're so cool, but we're going off track here.
Yeah, we could talk about things like that another time, because when my cat passed, that certainly was an experience I was not expecting. But we certainly can talk about that another time. And again, a subject for another time is interesting when you've talked about aliens, what that actually means, what is the reality about that. But I think just coming full circle, the whole going into the connection is that you saw that video, talk about the womb, people call it yoni, it's all that ancestral DNA healing, which I've done for a couple of decades. And then you started right at the beginning, how, your wife was pregnant, her emotional attachment or none, and then your daughter arriving, and then your connection. And this is, I just feel we're constantly here to heal and resolve and nurture. And I've found, especially over the past decade, the absolute power of this healing is so intense. And I've always seen the womb as being the holy grail.
Yes.
When people talk about the cup and the chalice and, trying to find it with Yeshua and that, the blood in the cup, and then the wine in the cup. So it's all this. It's like, no, we're just talking about the woman's womb, the woman's power to create.
Yes.
And the beauty in it. But where it's, as you know, it's been raped, pillaged, abused, suppressed, stolen, harvested, or the evil behind it is something else. And personally, just my own personal healing, whether it's been conscious or I've been guided in that moment for that healing, it's not just about me, it's about the ancestors. So when I'm seeing it in my visions and they're showing me the stories going back thousands of years to the beginning of that consciousness of the humans, that's my work. And then that's my work with my mother now. That's a work with my son. And then for my lineage ongoing with my DNA in there. It's not about me. It's like anything about humanitarianism, humanity. There is an aspect of self, but it's the ripple effect is so powerful. That is the consciousness.
Yes. Beautiful. And like the chalice idea and the womb and whatnot, or it's in everything that we see that is symbolic of reality that we're getting into now. Okay. Like for instance, the Taurus, like when I do my meditation or even my exercises, when I close my eyes, I see the Taurus. Well, what's the Taurus? It's still that womb. It's that chalice. It's, you know, it's the same kind of thing. So yeah, it's beautiful. I woke up this morning and I love that space between, okay, when you're not quite awake yet. And oh, throughout my whole life, I've written things, and oftentimes in the middle of the night it'll come when I wake up to take a leak in the middle of the night. Then I'm like, shit, I better write that down. So I just start writing, you know, and oftentimes my videos that I do on YouTube or whatever, or even business things will come to me at that space between, you know, which is non-gender generally. It's just a I don't know, divine neural activation, I call it, or like this friend of mine, Stephanie Sarton, she coined that phrase, I think, or she maybe heard it from somebody else, because everything is, there's no original thought. But, you know, divine neural activation being DNA, so that comes back to the idea of this nature boy that I am. And this morning I wrote a couple things down, and it was, the first one was, if reality is what we see, why not look for and focus on the good and work with it? I will say that with word, rather than look at what is not so good. And when I say that, then it brings to mind the idea of polarity versus bipolarity, you know, and this idea of masculine, feminine being bipolar. So we're talking on the spiritual level here more so than the physical, because we do recognize, I think both of us as mammals, that there is a distinct difference between a man and a woman, but you know, on the inner it's the same, or it's one.
Yes.
And that polarity, I really got into it a little while ago with a friend of mine who I was thinking of inviting him to this, but maybe him and I'll have a conversation on it as well. But the Roman light, you know, Roman, and his beautiful understanding of this masculine, feminine as well, understanding. I can call it understanding when it comes to people that don't know what it's about, because they damn well better fucking understand it, because it's reality, and that's a little masculine.
Get it. Well, I'm going for, I know people keep saying inner standing. To me, it's everything. It's thorough standing, outer standing. It's all of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, that led to another quite balanced young man suggesting the book The Kabbalion to me, I don't know, about three months ago maybe. And I read that, or I didn't read it, I cheated. I listened on audio, and that works for me, because I can, you know, turn it on at night and fall asleep with it. And I know some of it is still absorbing, even if my eyes are closed and I'm unconscious, so that my ears are still open. So, and I not only liked that book, I loved it, you know, and the 7 hermetic principles, one being, you know, the gender principle, and right close to it, the polarity stuff. And oh my God, you know, like so much truth in that ancient kind of Hermes Trismegistus, I guess he was called at that time, but you know, it's Thoth again, Thoth, same kind of principle. And then we got into the idea of the Christianity, and then all of a sudden it was Jesus, you know, and I'm like, what the hell, you know? It's kind of like the Adam and Eve story, like she came from his rib, like bullshit, you know. Like I'm not gonna eat that one up. That's bothering me, and I still think that there's another gospel out there of Mary that's going to tell quite a different story of where he got his ideas, you know, and where the hell did Adam come from instead of where the hell did Eve come from, you know? Like, it's just, I think that we've got a lot of work to do in that Bible as well. And maybe it's just understanding of the Bible rather than my saying it has to be changed, you know, like, boy, I threw a whole bunch in there.
Or we set fire to the Bible and we just tell the truth. set fire to it, it's crap. And because they did it, they created it with information. How many times has that been changed? The amount of people I've met that they've had different lifetimes of rescribing the Bible. What is the original? What is the original? It was probably about 10, like the 10 Commandments. That was the original. And then they just, let's tell some stories in that and make it our own. Yeah. So we'll have to have a conversation about, like you said, when you passed over, because I've passed over on a few occasions as well, which is a very interesting thing when you leave your body to arrive back. And I've had different scenarios, so it's been different each time. And my connection, as I see it, that's why I've got the rose. It's a bit of a signature for me, but it's a bit about Mary Magdalene. It's more for me of the Mary Magdalene and the Yeshua and the bloodlines and the lineage and the blood and the heart pumping through the body and what they really were about. And that all came about after my heart attack. That I had in 2013, but I say it heart attack, just it's almost like that because people understand that phraseology, but it's not. It was a heart opening. My heart it had to explode to open the chambers to almost like just they had to get into the nooks and crannies. It was time. We've got to get in there. And then so from that time I was. Again, the reality is what is the information, but I've got the information and I can only offer it out when it's time. So I've got my Mary Magdalene books, which are channeled, and it's nothing about Mary Magdalene because she don't want to discuss what she looked like, what the Bible says. It's like that she's saying the same things through me with my life story and me having to be vulnerable and expose myself. And she basically just gets you to look, you're just looking in the mirror. She just wants you to take responsibility of you, to connect to the depth of your heart. And just going to all these dark corners, all to the bright areas, open all them doors, get the dust out, as she was then. No different. So I did have it on Amazon, but I took it off because I couldn't cope with Amazon and its energies, and it'll arrive in the market when it's meant to. But I was then connected to a lot of people that did a lot of channelings and about Yeshua and the reality of what actually occurred. And I just keep getting more and more pieces, which just make me laugh more and more because it's not the truth.
Yeah. Well, was she the one that calmed him down? Like if you go to the story a little bit and say that he was throwing the shit off the tables and turning the tables with the money changes and everything, was it Mary that said, listen, just keep loving, just stay on your path? I really think there's a lot of, like you say, deception in there, but I still love the story of Jesus Christ. And as a male, I ask myself very often, in fact, every day, like, what would Jesus do whenever I run into a situation,
Yeah.
And so I like that story. And I do think there was a man. I think there was lots of men like that.
Yes.
That had that. I'm going to call it feminine qualities that were nurturing and compassionate and loving and kind and natural healing processes, the stories about Christ and stuff. So it's pretty cool. But I just got to touch back for a second on the near death that you had, and then I'll quickly share mine. It's not long, like it's pretty quick. Basically, I had a major operation on my hip.
How old were you?
33.
What year were? All right, then. What year were it? If you're really 33, what year?
Yeah, 74, I think.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I was born in 61, so 33 would have put it in 74. And what I did is,
can I just go back? Why did you have an operation? What was it?
Well, what it was is I have I have a birth defect. It's called a hemangioma. So massive extra blood vessels. You know, Gorbachev has that thing on his forehead.
Okay.
Take that and expand it into a massive vessels that basically add half a soccer ball to my left ass, my right ass cheek. And I had that all my life, and it would rupture ever since I was a little boy.
Wow.
Fucking pain, I'm telling you. It was
Wow.
it was like hitting your, thumb with a hammer, but taking that to the size, like I say, like this, and nothing they could do. I mean, it was like it would rupture, and then that was it. The throbbing and whatnot. I got lots of, painkillers thrown at me when I was a kid, but I'd go. It was a strange childhood. That's all I can say. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, and it was a pain that I can't describe. Everybody can only describe their own pain.
Yeah.
But eventually, I found this doctor. I just both said quack. I was getting mixed up with that, but I found this doctor that said, "Listen, I can take that off as long as it's not embedded in your muscle tissue, and very few of them are." So I said, "Okay, cool." So I'm 33 years old, and I said, let's go for it. So he dug in there and took this off, and there was like I compare it to a average cake pan, like where we used to make our chocolate cakes when we were kids, and fill that up with blood vessels without the blood in, but the flesh alone, and that's how much came off.
Wow.
So the next day, I got up and woke up from the anesthesia or whatever, and I my leg felt really good, all the way down, and I thought, I'm gonna try and get up and take a leak. I had the IV hooked up, and I went to the washroom, came back, everything felt good, So one of the doctors came in. I said, "Can I go home?" And he says, "Well, there's drains and stuff." He says, "But yeah, it's a didn't go into the muscle tissue, so that explains your movement and everything." He says, "I can't see why not, but we'll wait for a little while." And I said, "Yeah, my sister's coming anyway, so I'll talk about it again after that."
Yeah.
So we went. I went to the bathroom again while I was waiting for her, and this time they took the IV out, and I was standing in the washroom, and I can still remember looking in the mirror at not grape size, but pea size sweat beads coming out of my forehead and my face.
Wow.
And all of a sudden I just went crash onto the floor. And I remember the whole experience. It was like I was conscious, but I couldn't see or feel, but I was still conscious. And they put me on the bed, and like I said, I couldn't feel any of that or see any of that. And I was having some thoughts, and whatnot, but the one thought I didn't have was pain. I didn't feel any pain. And I thought, I can't remember saying that I'm dying or anything like that in my mind. It was just like, this is very strange, and it's painless. It's pretty cool. So about, I don't know, 10 minutes, they told me later, then laying on the bed, the stitches broke, and the floor of the bedroom or the hospital room was covered with blood. Like it basically had bled internally in the wound overnight, and then the stitches broke, and it just dumped all my blood on the floor. So they quickly stuck the IV back in me, and slowly over the next few minutes, or I don't know how long, what time, then I came back to life. And it was, but the key to that story in this conversation is this, okay? That I learned how I can harvest an animal without pain, and that is just through taking the blood. And I studied then the halal methods and the kosher methods of harvesting beef animals.
Oh, wow.
And I've talked with Temple Grandin. She's a good friend of mine in the U.S., an autistic lady that does animal health behavior or animal behavior practices and all the major plants and stuff. And I said, I got this. I know how we can do this. And she says, well, kosher's pretty, you know, this and that, you know, we still should do the unconscious. I said, don't touch that central nervous system. You know what I'm talking about, Temple. And she said, and she stopped. And she said, well, you know, part of it is the restraint, because the animal is coming into an area and stuff. And I said, you've already got the cradle, like, and she knows that because she invented a cradle to capture animals. And then all it takes is that neck extension and take the carotid and jugular. This is pretty graphic information for some, but hey, we're into it now. And then just take the blood, and then within seconds the brain is depleted and it is more or less painless. Like, you know, why do ladies do this, you know, rather than the men who put the gun to their head in suicidal situations? Because I've cut myself many times, and really, you don't really feel a lot of pain when you cut your finger or, you know, open yourself up in a major way. It kind of comes later, but not like interrupting the central nervous system. Okay, that's that story.
Isn't life intriguing? Well, this is where we could just talk for hours, and this is where people want to know people's experiences, and then they've got their own experiences. Like, yeah, we could just go on forever and ever, because we've all got such deep knowings, experiences, and I'm not. There's a few stories, so I'm not going to go into the stories. And the reason why I'm not really expanding on the Yeshua, Yahweh, Jesus, the reality is I know that I'm going to do either a TV production or a film. So, and I've done the script and the storyline.
Wow.
And that's why I don't want to give things away, because me just saying a few words, as always, you know what happens? People hear a few words and then they'll just get their own perception of it. But when you see it on screen, it brings it to life with the story. So it will happen. I know it's going to happen, and it'll be very exciting when it does. But
wow,
for me, death, wow, I've been on a journey, and that's why I've got quite a few books to write. I'll just say one passing, but I won't explain the story behind it. But what I'll just say is, in the experience was just doing I was just doing a meditation, and I'd gone. I didn't know I'd gone. I was doing a meditation. But it was a deeper meditation that I would have done from something I'd experienced earlier in the day. And all that I remember was I'd gone. I don't know for the time length. It could have been anywhere like 20 minutes. I don't know, or not. I really don't know. It feels long. It feels short. I never timed it. And all that I remember was hearing my sister because I was living with my sister at the time, and my sister just happened to drag these ladders in the hallway on the hard floor. And it's something inside me was almost like, wake up. And I didn't wake up. And then suddenly my body just was alive. But I'd realized where I was so euphoric, was so magnificent. I'd seen it in visions. I'd tell people about it, but I was there. This is not my heart attack. That's a quite a big story. I'm just going to do this one briefly, because that was a different experience. Yeah. And what shocked me, because my body had gone into shock, literally, as soon as I'd come out, I shouted out to my sister. She came in, and I can't say what she'd have to say, what she saw on my face. And I know there was something going on beforehand. That's why I said it's too much of a story. I don't want to be here for another hour. Thank you. That's me. That's ending of my other video that I've said. Thank you very much. It's told me it's done. Lovely. Turn you. That's my next upload. Okay. My body had gone into shock. So for me, in the times I've passed over, and this might help some people, when my body's gone into shock, I've shut down. My body's vibrating, it's shaking, literally like I'm in the Arctic, because everything's going to my heart to keep my heart pumping. So my whole body is freezing cold and I'm just shivering until my body can come through the process. Even though it warms up, I will still have the shock of the shivering, my mouth shaking, you know, my body's going, it's like everything's going. And then everything starts to align. It could take hours. And I just remember that night, I just said to my sister, please just lie by my side.
Wow.
And I knew that I would make sense of it. But what actually shocked me more than anything, and this is, I'm going back now 7 years, because of my love of my son. I know people have different loves of the children, but I've got a very, very close. It was always like me and him, you know, like Tweedledum and Tweedledee, always like stuck together. Oh, have you gone? Where are you?
I just had a call coming in, but I declined it. Okay.
I was shocked that I was shocked, but I weren't shocked, because it was a shock to be thinking like that consciously, but I also felt really good about it, that I was happy to have left. It didn't have that connection, or, oh, my son, he would have been left alone, and oh, there was nothing. I felt so pure. So pure. Yeah. And I knew it would have been, everything was all right. And then over a period of days and weeks, they guided me with many, many, many visions. And just one of them little visions was just to show me that another chamber had opened up in my heart, that the compassion had got so deep. And literally, for weeks, the passion and love of a blade of grass, I would sit with the grass and stroke the grass and just give my gratitude and talk with the grass. And then the nature, the tree, that I would just have so much love for humanity in this earth. It was so beautiful. And what's interesting, I did have a similar conversation with my sister the other day, and when we go through these experiences in a bizarre way, we expect they stay there. Like when we get enlightened, they stay. You're happy, they stay. No, it's an evolvement. If you want to call it a challenge or an experience, you evolve through it. It doesn't mean you forget it, but you're still going to be alive and live in a different way from whatever your experience was. So that lasted for many weeks, going into months, and then that started to alter that compassion. It's always been there, but it evolved, it expanded, and then it minusculed again. It changed and it evolved and moved. Not that I needed to say, oh, I've got to experience it again. It was like, no, I know that feeling. I know how I feel as being this human on this earth, the experience through it all. So, and I'm just going to dive into the waves in the brain. When you said earlier, when, you know, you wake up at certain times, or we do journaling. I've mentioned that before, because that's when I did the channelings of the books. But what I've just learned from it is those waves are natural in us, but because of everything, the evil, those natural waves are not able to be there more consistently. It's quite challenging to get to those places. That's why we apparently meditate, and then people separate that. I need to go and meditate, like it's a separation. But you know, you could be walking and meditating, because it's about connection, neutrality, your intuition, your inner guide, your visions, your senses, your knowings. That's what that is. So it's never separate from us, but they alter the waves, they put the chemicals, they put the electronics, so it alters the waves. And I've talked about it before. I'll end it on this because I could go on and on. What's a start? So when I've talked about the Schumann resonance, when I've just explained it, imagine it's a heartbeat, boom, boom, boom. You, as a human, as your first cell that is created, but like we said at the beginning, mother and father, it's that cell of it will be the heartbeat, the boom, boom, boom. Now imagine that we've got two heartbeats, you to Mother Earth and you as your divine essence. Imagine then lots of gold lights like a puppet shining out, as that's your electronic and energetic connection to the earth. You could call it an aura. I'm just going to imagine it like lots of puppet strings of golden light. Mm-hmm. If there's some interference and you weren't conscious of that, let's just say somebody put a mirror in between or a piece of cord in between one of them lights on your puppet strings, you might have thought, oh, I feel a bit disharmonious, but you might not be able to see or connect with what that is. That's what they have done. They have put lots of plate, and then they put one plate in one puppet string. Imagine you had 22 puppet strings, and they intervened in 6 of them puppet strings over time, and your body was so out of balance, out of charge. It can't recharge unless those sections are removed. So your light shines with the resonance of the earth. So imagine those lines of those puppet strings from your heartbeat to the heartbeat of the earth.
Yeah.
And that's what they do. They cause the disharmony and they get us confused. So we can't see, whoa, off me puppet string, you know, and then you push it away, whatever you do, that's my puppet string. Don't touch it. I didn't give you permission. So,
you know,
it's really simple, but yeah.
And you know, the challenge then is continuing to use that language of they, you know, but they did, and we can't deny that. We can't just go past it and say, oh, it's okay, you know. It's like there's that temperature thing you were talking about just a second or two ago about and then it gets translated into the idea of heaven and hell. It's cooler, okay, cooler when you die. And I admit that too. Like I feel as if it was really cool. It was calm, and it was and colder. It wasn't hot like hell, you know, like, and that kind of language is in our minds because of them. I'm going to say them in that term. Whoever it was that put this spell on us with the human language, you know. But we can get past it, and we can turn all those words around and say, like, it's cool to die, you know, that's heaven. But do I want to go there yet? No, I got stuff to do here. So I want to keep that polarity.
Yes. Cool.
I don't want to get hot. I don't want to get mad. I don't want to get angry. I want to just keep it cool, you know? And then that coldness of that ultimate experience of passing over is just kind of a special moment, you know. It's like it's cool, so what the hell, you know, if it's colder, that's okay too, you know. Like yesterday was a good example, and you said in your comments, I noticed I was walking with you out there like when it was 27 degrees below up here in heaven. Like
well, I've never experienced cold like that. I know we can mourn a lot in England, but it's more damp than cold. And I did have the opportunity of going to Canada quite a few years ago, and wow, when people talk about cold, it's like, oh, now I understand. Now I get it. When they say you're out there and it like you can freeze within like a very short space of time, and I'm walking around the block, it's like, it's all right. I know it's cold, but it's all right. And then you literally after 10 minutes, like, it's like, oh my God, I think my nose is like gonna freeze. It was beautiful though. I loved that. It was beautiful. It's like, look at nature.
It's so quiet and it's so calm, you know, when it gets that cold. And I've experienced 40 below, you know, like it's different. And man, that stuff, that is just taking my mind into some beautiful spaces right now to think of that coldness. And number one is, as a human, I can do something about that. Like the average animal has a coat of hair, and that's how they experience it, right? But I can put a coat on and walk and, you know, keep my body moving, and that friction and that, you know, whatever you want to call it, that electrical energy keeps me warm. But by God, I've been to like Manila when it's 36, 37 degrees in summer when it's humid. Oh, you know, I struggled so hard to walk. And then when I got to the mall, just take your shirt off and wring it out, you know, like I was a little heavier then, but still it was a horrible experience, that heat, you know, compared to, oh, it's cold out, just put an extra layer on and get out there and breathe. Like, my God, the air is just, you know, there's not much humidity in it. So you got to drink lots of water when it gets that cold and put your humidifier on. But it is a enlightening experience. Everything is just heightened, you know, the vision and the feelings and the smell. There's not much smell at that cold temperature, because the humidity is what kind of holds the smell in, I think. But anyway, I'm kind of going all over the place with that. It's exciting though.
Yeah, you have to jump around. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do think, you know, we just this universe, and just even talking about death. I've had so many experiences, and it's just I'm blessed to have had these experiences. Literally dying, even in a sense of, and I'm sure some people have, you know, seen these even in the Matrix film or whatever, where literally I've just sat there and been with myself, and then connected with certain energies, and I've literally seen my body separate in all its atoms. It's so surreal, but it's funny. It's laughable. That is the experience. I mean, I always end up coming back to earth, and then I'll always have emotional things. It doesn't mean I'm a walking, oh, no, far from it. It's knowledge and wisdom to share, experiences, and I'm still here as the human.
Yeah.
And I love it. I really love it.
And it takes away our fear of death. It takes away our understanding of death and gives us an understanding of death.
Yes.
It gives us the opportunity to, like you say, share stories, but also to take that wisdom and add to, as I always say, not overturn, add to our current civilization and our current human collective status, which is ultimately filled with suppression and deception, you know, like from the outer, like it's just filled with it. So what do we do with that? And I'm going to close it up in a few minutes here, and I want you to speak some more too, but look, kind of the thought I had to get towards the end of this one, because I don't like to go on for too long. I know people have lots of stuff to do, but
we'll end it on that. Yeah, go on.
The past is either to forgive or bury, and the future is ours to imagine from the only time that's really real, which is here and now. So, you know, can we find that in the outer? I don't think so. We have to go inside. We have to go into that woman, and find that nurturing, find that truth, find that creation, because I damn well believe that God was a creator, and God is a woman, you know, like I don't eat this patriarchal bullshit up. And I mean, I'm a male and I understand what the male is. It's the outer, it's the exposer, it's the, you know, the warrior, all that stuff. And I like being a man, don't get me wrong, I love it, you know, but I know what it is. And I also know what the feminine is.
Wow, I could come out with a lot of responses there, but I think the one that's mainly, I think if it's to give us a message that, and not just, it's for everybody, this is why this is the remembering of the honoring. And it's not, I know we've gone through a phase of divine feminine, that's okay. We've gone through the phases in the 90s of femininity, you know, and the harshness of then the masculinity. I think we've come so fast in when we're looking at time, how things evolve, and I always knew it would, which is so exciting to see that we're both equal. And the more we enhance each other as like in a relationship of a masculine and a feminine, we'll just put it simply going back to creation, that if a man and a woman is together, it doesn't matter. I'm sorry for the people that saying, you know, I don't have boyfriends or girlfriends. Sorry, but you know what I mean, your partner. But when you're in unity, I've always said it, my experiences have been shit by narcissists. That's why I've been single basically for a long time. Narcissistic mother, even though, you know, I have talked about my mother and what's going on right now. So I've had narcissism from very early age, and it went ongoing, and I had to really work through so many different avenues, the waves and the flows, trapped, set free. And the way that I've always seen it is, if you treat, let's give an example. So I'll say you, because you're there looking at me now. If you treat me like shit, and
I'm looking at a rose.
The rose. So if you treat me like shit, but I love you, and I just keep giving and giving because I just love you, and I know there's hope in there, and I know the nice sides of you. Can you imagine, women or men out there, that if you loved me equally, can you imagine if I gave you all that when you treated me like shit? Can you imagine what you're gonna get if you treat me with magic? And the equality and the enhancement that we can just enhance each other, or that is like blow away relationships. That is just beautiful. It's not even we'll have to find a new word. The beauty in that. It doesn't mean you won't go through your expansions, your experiences. But what that means is different. It's totally different.
Yeah. No, I agree. And we can find it on the inner, but as my good friend, never met him, but Russell Means said, as males, we need nurturing from diaper to diaper.
Oh wow!
You know, we're just little boys. What's that?
I thought you were going to say something else then. From diaper to diaper.
Yeah, Russell Means and his wife Pearl did a video, and I mean, for years I'd watch that, and every time I'd fucking start crying, because he started crying in it, of course, when he was doing it. It was his last video, and he died shortly after that. But you know, American Native man and his wife, and it's touching. I'll link it in the.
We'll put that link for everybody. I'd like to see that. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Right.
Beautiful, my dear.
That was a lovely conversation. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the one with Haley. It was, I think you had invited more people to it, and I probably was on that invite list, but I was so determined to go get my water yesterday that I went there instead.
Well, that's the ping you heard. That's the video I'm going to upload, and it's all about the devil. So people might have watched it already anyway, because it's going to be after this now, but it's about the devil and the tarot card and what that means in our everyday, my beliefs in what I understand about that card, and the narcissism of the world and the evil, and how we can turn it around using the word even devil. And then I explain more near the end of the video. And it's just beautiful, even saying those words. Like William was a bit like, oh, well, so I didn't sign up for this. But the conversation was just so beautiful. It was so opening for people to connect with things that had happened in the past, their emotions, visions, and how that can make sense. When you look at things in a different way, it's more clear.
Yeah, beautiful. And just the inversion or turning things around, like devil is lived backwards.
That's right. So, past tense. Yes.
Yeah. And it's another couple of quick ones just before we end. We had a girl named Keisha on. She's in Costa Rica right now. I think she's originally from Canada. What a lovely child. Oh my God. She's just so like a Care Bear, you know. But she came up with a couple yesterday that I want to repeat, and they're just beautiful. And one was, you know, what could we do right now? Well, we first of all, she says we could take Jesus off of that fucking cross. Like, she didn't say fucking, but I'm saying, you know, like, it's been hanging up there for how many 2,000 years, for Christ's sake. Like, get him off of there. Like, get him walking around with the children in our minds, and
Yeah.
you know, loving people again and stuff like that. So that was cool. And then somebody, I don't know if it was her or Ida, came up with the word incension rather than ascension, which again goes back to the womb man in you, you know, like going to the inner for the incension, rather than us continuing to look at this legal jurisdiction, which is what that is too, you know, like that's judgment. That is the legal jurisdiction of death and life. And forget it, you know, like I get so caught up in it sometimes, and I have to just exit again, because I know, and the call that I just had is from my guy once again that I communicate with directly, that knows, like I do, that the monetary system has already shifted at the upper levels, and there's nothing can hold it back. And politics is way down the line. And if I keep going back to that and talking about it, so I'm going to just slowly but surely wipe that out of my videos. Like, I'm just going to bury it, because I don't need to go into that legal jurisdiction anymore. Even if that's the only time I get 150 views is when I put the name Donald Trump in my goddamn thing, you know, like, who cares? If there's 5 people watch it, if there's none that watch it, that's where I'm going, you know, and I'm going to drop all of that stuff because it's not worth it.
I agree totally. And 2 things there: ascension. I keep saying it, ascending. I've seen it for the past 20 years. Ascending is going up, 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 rising. It's when we talk about heaven and hell. I used to think that in my brain as a young teenager. We're in hell. I didn't know why. Where's heaven? I've got to find heaven. I never understood it. But something inside me was going, no, we're in hell. It doesn't get any shitter than this. The poison, the poverty, the evil. It's like, oh my God, we're in Dante's hell. What do you mean there's something below, lower? No, stop yourself. It's not. It's here. We're right here. And also as well, when I keep hearing trust the plan, I got to the point it pissed me off. It's just like, no, I'm not trusting any plan, because my consciousness is telling me, if you want to call it the light, or if you want to say the Trump thing, they haven't got a bloody plan. They're doing as best as they can in the chess game they've got. And I know a lot of people are making channels and money and doing all sorts, whatever. I'm leaving them to it, because your time will end as well. There is no plan. They might have direction, aims and goals. The amount of looking glass projects that are going on, the diving into the future to go back to the past, the jumping timelines. But the reality is there is no plan, because there's so much happening. That is why we might have goals, but they never told you, as in the light, if you want to say it, they never told you there was a plan. And I'm saying, when they say trust the plan, they are right. Do you know why? Trust the plan in your soul. Trust the plan in yourself, because you are the plan. Yep. They, the love, the light, the God, the everything, wanted you to be here to do the things that they can't. They trust you. They love you. They're behind you. They're with you. You're the plan. Trust your own plan.
Perfect.
I love you.
Moving forward, complete.
Yeah. Big hug. I love you very much. See you soon.
You too. With abundance, sovereignty, health, love, and euphoria. Catch you later.
I love it when you say that. Bye.
Bye.